On September 15th, Israel targeted and destroyed the Al-Ghafari building in western Gaza City. Before the attack, the military warned displaced families sheltering inside and around the building to evacuate. They claimed the high-rise was being used to conceal terrorist infrastructure. No casualties were immediately reported. Israel destroyed numerous buildings in Gaza City, resulting in at least 16 Palestinian deaths, according to local health authorities on Monday. Meanwhile, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio held discussions about the war with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in Jerusalem.
On the assessment of the impact of the strike, whether the leadership was killed in Doha?
Well, we're still getting the final reports. I'll tell you what the impact of the strike is. We sent a message to the terrorists. You can run, but you can't hide. And we'll get you.
Mr. Prime Minister, Robbie Grammer with the Wall Street Journal. Just to put a finer point on it, would you rule out further strikes on Hamas operatives in foreign sovereign countries in the region? And for Secretary Rubio, what's your message to close U.S. allies like the UK, which you plan to visit, on the vote at the United Nations to advance a Palestinian state, not just to nations overall, but some of our closest allies like the UK? Thanks.
The principle that terrorists should not have immunity wherever they are, wherever they may be, was not established by me. We had a massacre a few decades ago. It's called the Munich Massacre, in which PLO terrorists murdered our athletes to the Olympic Games. And my predecessor, Golda Meir, vowed that we shall track down these terrorists and get them one by one, which is what we proceeded to do in the leading European countries. And we did this one by one by one. I didn't hear a great cry of wrongdoing to these countries. Even though they weren't harboring terrorists, the terrorists were there. Okay, they didn't even harbor them, as is the case in other cases. The terrorists happened to be on that soil, and we acted, which is what democracies do, including the leading democracy, when they have the ability to target terrorists to threaten their civilians. So this is a principle we established. It's a principle we follow. It hasn't changed.
On your question, these things that people are doing and these different countries are doing at the United Nations, first of all, they're largely being done because of their own domestic politics. Second of all, they're largely symbolic. They have really no impact whatsoever in bringing us any closer to a Palestinian state. The only impact they actually have is it makes Hamas feel more emboldened. It makes other elements like Hamas feel more emboldened. It actually has made it harder. It's actually served as an impediment to peace. In the past, we have seen when these statements have come out, maybe there's a negotiation going on. Maybe you think you've actually made some progress on getting some hostages released or an end to the war. And then these things come out, and all of a sudden these groups back off. In many cases, walk away. Hamas has walked away from agreements that they actually had tacitly agreed to. But then they see the sort of international support they believe they're getting as a rule, and they walk away from it. So we've warned of two things. One, it actually makes it harder to negotiate when those negotiations were occurring, and because it emboldens these groups. And the second is we've warned them that there will be an Israeli counter-reaction to those moves, and we've seen some of that happen as well. So I think these things have actually made it harder to end this war and this conflict, not easier. And we've expressed that to them. I've expressed that to them directly on multiple occasions, and I'll continue to do it. Now, they're going to do what they want, and they're going to continue to do what they're doing, but I'm telling you, it's actually hurting the cause they think they're furthering.
Two last questions.
Let's take one for the foreign press and one from the Israeli press.
You take it. Go ahead. You tell them. Go ahead. It's fine.
Thank you. Secretary, I wanted to ask, I know you mentioned prior to the trip that the focus of the trip was not the Israeli plans for the operation in Gaza City, but I was wondering if you could tell us if that's something and Mr. Prime Minister, good to see you again. If this is something that came up in your discussions in terms of the U.S. view on the announced Israeli plans for military operations in Gaza City, and what the U.S. view is about this idea of, as some have talked about, a Gideon's Operation Gideon's Chariot kind of 2, or a continuation of the offensive, or an expansion of the offensive, potentially this month in Gaza City.
Yeah.
Thank you.
The best way for me to put it to you is that the purpose, of our conversations have been about what the president. I'll restate what the president has repeatedly said. He wants every single hostage released. He wants Hamas eliminated as a threat, and he wants to then have the United States be helpful in rebuilding Gaza for the future that's going to be peaceful and prosperous, and not have elements like Hamas operating. That's the goal. Now, how do we achieve that? How do we get there? That's what we're always talking about. That's what we talked about today. And that's going to continue to be the focus of our engagement in this. We want all of the hostages out. All of them. Every single one of them, both living and deceased, all of them. There should never have been hostages. This should never have happened. Okay? This happened because on October 7th, these animals, these barbaric animals, conducted this operation, and against innocent people that had nothing to do with any of this. And that's why this all started. We've forgotten that. People have forgotten that that's where this all began. That's why the president keeps saying, remember October 7th. We wouldn't even be having these conversations right now if these barbarians had not done what they did. So this is what brought us to this point. It needs to end. And how does it end? It ends by eliminating the people who did it, by ending them as a threat. It ends by releasing every single hostage, both living and deceased. There should never have been a hostage. There should not be a hostage now. And then, when all of that is done, then we can begin the work, I hope, internationally, to providing the people of Gaza the kind of future that they deserve, but that they will never have as long as a group like Hamas exists. So that's been our focus, and obviously, we have been the focus and at the core of much of what we talked about. How do we achieve what I believe is a shared goal, not just of the United States and Israel, but of multiple countries around the world and certainly in the region who want to see the same outcome. And that's what we've been focused on. That's been the president's focus. And he wants that to all happen as soon and as quickly as possible.
Israel's nearly 2-year-long campaign against Hamas has killed more than 64,000 people in Gaza, according to the Hamas-run health ministry. It was prompted by the militant group's attack on Israel in October 2023, in which over 1,200 people were killed and 251 others taken hostage, according to Israeli figures.